Okay guys, so this is the beginning. I'm going to do topic 2 now from the Unit 1 review packet. Before I do that, I realized I skipped number 14 before, so I'm going to do number 14 now. It says circle all of the following statements that are true given line M below. Now remember, when you're naming a line with one letter like line M, this isn't a point on the line, this is the name of the line, right? So that's why we can call it line M. And these are different points on the line, A, B, C, D. They're indicating locations on the line, okay? So this says the length of AB, because there's no segment above it, plus the length of CD, and then they say it equals the length of AD. Well, let's see. So AB is from here to here, okay? CD is from here to here, and they're saying that's the length of this whole segment AD. Well, that's not true because it didn't include this piece here. So there's no way this piece alone and this piece alone can give me this whole thing. So this one's not true. Now I'm going to use my red. This says that AB plus BC, so here's AB, here's BC. So AB plus BC is equal to the whole thing, AD, minus CD. So we're taking this away. So AD minus CD. Well, AB plus CD, this red section, is the same as AD minus CD. So this one's true. Okay. Lastly, it says AC minus AB. So this whole thing AC, but we're taking away AB. So we have this left over. They say that's equal to AD, this whole thing, minus CD. Well, that green isn't the same as AC, that whole thing. So this one is also not true. So the only correct answer was number 2. Okay, now we can really go on to topic 2. Angles. Now remember, I said this in the previous video. If you're looking at things and you're saying, I don't know what skill, I don't understand these problems, this is telling you the skills that you need to be able to do in order to do these problems. And these are in your notes, right? So 2A, B and C in your notes. A is naming angles, B is the size of angles, so like 60 degrees, and C is our vocab like right, obtuse, and acute, and straight. So you look at your notes. If you're confused on a problem, your notes has good information to help you through. So let's do this problem, a 60-degree angle named angle FOX. Let's start with just this. We know a 60-degree angle has to be bigger than 45 degrees. So 45 is probably about here. So I need to make sure it's a little bit bigger. And then when I name it, I know that this letter here has to be the vertex here. So this has to be O. And then it could be FOX or FOX. It doesn't really matter, but the O has to be in the middle. Here we have a right angle. Remember, right means 90 degrees. And the way we're going to indicate that 90-degree angle is with that box. Okay. That middle letter A has to go here, so we could have C, A, T. Okay. Now you also could have drawn it backwards like this. That's fine. But you need to have A at that vertex. Okay, name an obtuse angle. There's a lot of obtuse angles in this picture. Remember, obtuse means more than, or it's between 90 and 180. So one way we can indicate that is that my value of my angle has to be between 90 and 180 degrees. So if this is 90, it needs to get bigger than 90. So this angle would be an obtuse angle. So angle RMU. Okay. Can't do this big straight one. This is called a straight angle, not an obtuse angle. It's 180 degrees. We could go backwards. If that's a 90-degree angle, then this is going to be bigger than 90 degrees. So SMV. Okay. Now, we can't tell for sure if SMU is obtuse, but based on this picture, I think it probably is. So if you wanted to add that one on, you could too. Okay. Let's do a straight angle. A straight angle adds up to 180 degrees. It's just a straight line. Straight line, straight angle. So RMV, that's your only choice. Now you guys only had to name one for each. I just want to give you multiple answers. So if you got a different one, you'd be good. So an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. Okay. So we could have RMS. We could have SMT. We could have TMU. Ooh, that was a bad U. I'm sorry, guys. We could have UMV. think that's all the acute angles. Okay, on to the next page. Notice really fast, M is the vertex for all of these, so M is always the middle letter. Okay, page number 3. Okay, these vocab words are super, super important. So 2D is all about being able to recognize relationships. 2E through G is the applying of the relationship. So notice A and B are next to each other. They share this side right here. Oops, you guys can't really see that I was doing that. They share this side right here. That makes them an adjacent angle. They share the side and the vertex. So I know these are adjacent. I also know that because this thing here is a straight line and 90 is used here, these have to add up to 92. Because remember, this whole thing is 180. If 90 is already used up, that means 90 is left over here. So these are going to be complementary because they add up to 90 degrees. Okay. Over here, again, I have two angles that share a side and a vertex. They're next to each other, so they have to be adjacent. But these definitely aren't complementary. They don't add up to 90. They together make up a whole straight line. So this is a linear meaning line, a linear pair. And remember, a linear pair adds up to 180 degrees. Okay, over here, these two angles are not next to each other anymore. They do share a vertex, but they don't share a side. Remember we said whenever we can make two straight lines that intersect, you have vertical angles if they're between those two lines, the same two lines. So A is between yellow and green, and B is between yellow and green. Because they're between the same two lines, straight intersecting lines, these are vertical angles. Okay? They're not adjacent, they're not next to each other, they're not complementary, they're not linear pair, right? So it's just vertical angles. But when we get to rules, these are going to be the same size. Okay, so let's look down here. Here's just using or applying our rule without a picture, okay? So the 23 says the complement of angle A. Well, notice angle A is 29 degrees, and it's going to be true for all of these problems here, okay? Complement means adds up to 90 degrees, right? So the complement of A is the other angle that with A will add up to 90 degrees. So we want it to add up to 90. We've already used up 29 degrees, so that leaves us with 61 left over for our complement. Supplement means 100. They add up to 180 degrees, right? We've already used up 29 degrees for angle A, so angle B is going to be 151 degrees. Okay. If two angles are vertical, that means they're congruent. So that symbol, the equal with the squiggly on top, means congruent. They're the same size. So if angle A is 29 degrees, angle B has to also be 29 degrees. Linear pair also means add up to 180. The only difference is for a linear pair, they have to be adjacent next to each other, but it's the same as this supplement up here. Again, it's going to be 180 minus what we've used up already, and that's going to leave us with 151. Okay, let's keep moving. '27 says, given that ray KH bisects angle GKJ, solve for angle GKH and HKJ if the measure of angle GKH, so GKH is 3x plus 16, and the measure of angle HKJ is 6x minus 2. Now, we couldn't just assume these went here and here. We wanted to make sure one of these wasn't the whole thing. So always read carefully. Now, in this statement, or in this explanation of the problem, there was a really important word, bisects. And bisects means to cut in half. It tells us that this angle here is the same size as this angle here. So as soon as we know that they're the same size, we can use our rule, blank equals blank. This angle is equal to this angle. Okay. Well, now we're going to solve. I'm going to subtract 3x onto this side. I'm going to add 2 to this side. And I'm going to divide by 3. Now, this didn't tell us to solve for x. It said to solve for GKH and HKJ. So here's GKH. We're going to plug in 6 here. So we're plugging in 6 for X. It's going to be 18 plus 16, which is 34. Now remember, we know that they're bisected. These have to be the same size, so we could plug it in for this one too. Plug in 6, you get 36 minus 2, which is 34, but we already know they should be the same thing. So I'm going to say the measure of angle GKH is equal to the measure of angle HKJ, which is equal to 34 degrees. There's no words written here, but if we look at the picture, you'll notice we have a straight line. They're adjacent. That means they're a linear pair. And a linear pair gives us the equation blank plus blank equals 180 degrees. So we have 5x plus 11 and 2x plus 22. If we combine our like terms, we're going to get 7x plus 33. I'm going to subtract 33. And I'm going to divide by 7. And it just told us to solve for x, so we're all done. Okay, down here, solve for x. Notice again we have these two straight lines that intersect. And they're these diagonals, right? They're opposite. They're not next to each other. They only share a vertex, but they jump over that vertex to each other. These are vertical angles. And our rule for vertical angles is blank equals blank. They're the same size. I'm going to subtract 3x on this side. I'm going to add 2 to this side, and I'm going to divide by 3. They told us to solve for x, so we're all done. Now notice in this problem it says solve for the measure of angle MB. So the M is just telling us we want the size. We want how open, how big the angle MB is. So what's its measure? What's its size? Well, you'll notice we have these markings here. These tell me that these two angles are congruent, so we're going to have a blank equals blank. They're the same size. Okay. Now I'm going to solve. I'm going to subtract 4x onto this side. I'm going to subtract 5 onto, well, I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. I'm going to divide by 3, and I'm going to get that x equals. Now, I'm not done, though. I want the measure of angle B. So here's angle B. We can call it B just because it's the only angle that uses this vertex. We've also called it angle ABC or angle CBA. But angle B is still talking about this. So we're going to plug in 10 here. So 7 times 10 is 70, plus 5 is 75. So the measure of angle B is 75. Let's go to the next page. Something I'd highly recommend, guys, is bring in a highlighter to the test. It's helpful to highlight keywords, kind of like I did down here. Remember, like I highlighted the word bisect. You might go through and highlight the word complement, supplement, vertical angles, linear pair. It's really helpful. Okay, let's do number 31 together. Solve. Given that the measure of angle POA, so here's POA, it's the whole thing, is 120. POK, the measure of angle POK is 50 degrees. And angle KOW is congruent to angle WOA. Remember, this little symbol here means congruent. Means they're the same size. So let's think about it. If these angles are the same size, but we don't know what either of them is, let's think about how we would represent a value we don't know. In algebra, we use the value x, or the variable x a lot. So if this is a size we don't know, we're going to call this x, the size of this x. Well, if these are the same unknown size, we can call that x as well. They're the same unknown. Well, now we just have, instead of 2 parts, we have 3 parts that make up 120. We have part, a part equals 120. So now we have first part plus second part plus third part. Our first part was 50. Our second part was x. Our third part was x. Our total was 120. So let's simplify this. This is the same as I've got 2x plus 50 equals 120. I'm going to subtract 50 on both sides and divide by 2. So that's the measure of angle x. But they didn't ask us for x. They asked us for the measure of WOA. So WOA, well, that was a size of x, right? So this is going to be 35. POW is this big thing here. It's made up of 2 parts, 50 and 35. So together, those 2 parts, 50 and 35, give me 85. Okay. Given that the measure of angle TQR is 100, solve for x. Well, we don't have any keywords like bisect, linear pair, vertical angles, but we have 2 parts in the whole. And as soon as I have 2 parts in my whole, I can just say my first part plus my second part equals the whole thing. So my first part, 6x plus 12. My second part, 3x minus 20, equals the whole thing. So first, because all of my x's are on the same side of the equal sign, I need to combine my like terms. So I have 9x minus 8. Okay. To get x by itself, remember I'm going to add 8 to undo that minus 8. So now I have a 9x equals 108. And I can divide 108 by 9, and I get 12. And all they asked us to do is solve for x. So we're all done. Okay, I'm going to stop this video, and then I'm going to do one last video for topic 3.